Hello, let's try this again. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your very busy schedules to join me. I hope that there's something within this video that is a benefit to you or to somebody that you know. Please like, subscribe, share, leave a comment down below. The usual stuff. For those who are familiar with my channel, I kind of cover current events. I cover self-help. I cover being a Christian national, self-employed. I am the D and D&L Mentors. If you want to find my name, it's out there. I'm actually run a valid business, so my name is out there because, again, I believe in honor. Long story short. Although, again, I also support anonymity as an option, if you so choose. I want to start today. This is going to be chapter 1. We're going to go over of The Prepaid Legal Story by Harland Stonecipher. If you don't have this book, I highly encourage you to go ahead and read it. Get a copy of it. You can order it on Amazon. What I'm hoping to do with this is kind of put out something every Tuesday, and we'll see where things go from there. Basically, at the moment, we're looking at a chapter per episode. These will still be titled with the rest of the episodes I've put out. Please feel free to go ahead, go back, take a look at some of them as I cover different things. A lot of it having to do with current events, and I'm a Christian nationalist, and I believe the country was founded by Christian nationalists. And when the media starts having a problem with it, I believe it's equal justice under the law. Our words carved into the side of the Supreme Court. And it should be more than just words. It should be something that we live to as a country. And it's part of the problem of what's going on. Now, this is in a way kind of relevant. Take a look at what's going on with Donald Trump. We just had the Supreme Court rule unanimously that a state cannot take the powers of Congress away. And yet we have people saying how, and that's all this is. That's all it was, plain and simple. A state cannot take what Congress has the right to do and do it for themselves. It's in itself, when the secretary did it, and now she's saying, oh, all these other states did it too. Well, they did it because you did it, but it wasn't legal to do it in the first place. I'm sorry. One person shouldn't have the right to control who you vote for. I wanted to look at this, and right now, again, we live in a country where we find quite often justice is the law is interpreted for friends and enforced for enemies. And that those in Congress at this particular time, who are a bunch of lawyers, happen to, how do we put it, legal plunder. And again, I have a couple episodes covering what legal plunder is, and these were from essays written back in the 1800s of how things could turn, and oddly enough, how they are today, and a prediction by a Frenchman, actually, with regards to revolution. And why, again, the elite class. So what I wanted to do is, like I said, kind of cover page a chapter, but also I want to take a moment to say, okay, so I represent the D, I run a legal business. Besides this, don't ask me why I'm inspired to do this, but I have another channel. It's a gaming channel. I pretty much do gaming, cover current events, and just talk over there. You're welcome to go check it out. There'll be a link in the description down below. Hey, you never know. I've been an associate for Legal Shield for the past 10 years. I've been a member for about as long as well. I know the service. I am actually currently, right now, as of this moment, the making of this video, still in the top 1% of sales representatives for the company, though I never had the honor of actually obtaining a ring because there's a catch with that. Something about must maintain a certain persistency. Anyways, I had seen the ring, but with Legal Shield, a lot of it is if you're not earning the ring, then you're not really good enough. As I said, I'm still in the 1%. According to their own statistics, their leaderboards, I find myself still in the 1% of sales associates for the company. And as I said, I haven't made a sale in 4 years, based again specifically upon when does the pre-trial hours kick in for the service. Now, again, if you're not familiar with the service, that question will become a lot more relevant as we go through the book, because it is actually a major part of the service. And what do you do, or what happens when the law firm decides they just don't want to do it, and corporate office is like, yeah, so what? No, I'm not to say that the service doesn't work, because trust me, I have lots of stories about how it has worked and saved a lot of money for people. But there it is. It's at the attorney's discretion. It's at the law firm. It's at the lawyers. And now we're back to where I'm originally saying our problem is the equal justice, the legal system, even in the lawyers, the judges, because the lawyers become judges. Equal justice for all is no longer a moral or a standard justice for the name of equity, not equality. So let's go ahead and take a look. We'll get into the book here. I want to say again, thank you very much for taking the time of joining me on this. Part of the reason I'm not doing it live is because, I don't know. It would be interesting to see how it would interact. So this first one I'll probably do and post it live and sit in the chat as it's been pre-recorded, but I'll still be there. Please feel free to join me on my other channel. It's called a gaming channel, where I pretty much talk politics, games, and religion. Video games. It's an odd combination, but there you go. I want to go into this because, again, like I said, in a day and time when Christian nationalism, which is also what this country really is founded on, is considered right-wing and akin to fascism and Nazism, we have a problem in America that's a lot bigger than just inflation, or it's this culture war in which it seems God has been misinterpreted. And I'll be happy to go into that at another point in time. We have gotten to a point of a lack of self-control. And that is Christians and Americans is our biggest problem right now. Or at least can be stemmed back to that. Not necessarily one of the 7 deadly sins, but it should be akin to it sometimes as far as motivation. But that's neither here nor there. So let's go ahead and get into the book. If you're not familiar with Mr. Harold Stonecipher, the book does kind of cover it a little bit. I do encourage you to get a copy of it. You can obtain a copy of it on Amazon. I got this from, I believe it was, can't remember if it was Walmart or Target at the time. A couple years back I got it. When I was first an associate. One of the things they wanted you to do when you first became an associate was to read this book so that you knew where you were headed, or why you were doing what you're doing with this. So, one of the quotes I'll take from here is, I saw that on my way to the ring. Again, never saying I made enough, which is $50,000 in a year's time in a consecutive 12-month period. But I'm still listed as one of the top 1% of sales representatives for the company. This book is about 20 years old. So it's where the company was 20 years ago. I became an associate about 10 years ago. So we'll kind of be looking at how the company has changed from when this book was written to 10 years ago to now, because again, I'm being told I don't know how to sell the product. So the question becomes, what is the service? I have found the service to work for me. I have found it to not work. With the best excuse I get is at attorney's discretion. And I'm simply saying, as bad as it sounds, stand up for what you believe in. Equal justice for all, not equitable justice for all. They are two completely different things. And a lot of the problems that we were having about 20 years ago, a decade ago, are still, unfortunately, problems today. And though his company has stumbled, and about 10 years ago, about 12 years ago, it stopped being publicly traded, as is covered in this book, and has become privately held. So, we will see the changes that have represented, because, again, it is corporate office that not 6 months ago, well, a little over 6 months ago, corporate office that came out and said that Ketanji Brown was the best thing to happen to the American justice system. And if you know anything about her becoming a Supreme Court justice, That started with Biden saying she's going to be black and female, and then the most qualified. So we've seen her record. There are questions about her record and pedos, and why she tends to go light on them. But that's fine, I suppose. We're still at the state where we murder the most innocent in this country. Well, because of a lack of self-control. I'll go over that at another point. But I want to kind of start, again, we live in a system of justice today. Now, Mr. Stonecipher was a teacher, part-time insurance agent. And when he started the company, as an insurance agent, the most happy person to ever have an insurance policy is those who never use them. The most contented customer in the world is the one that never has to file a claim. Justice in America, I learned, had become a high-priced commodity, and you get only what you paid for. And sadly, that actually is how it works today. So we'll go a little bit into that. I'll cover it. If not today, as we go on. And we'll look at this because I have some questions. But again, it's a company or an opening in the market for a company that could, I believe, help make a change for the more positive in our country today. The most contented customer in the world is the one who never has to file a claim. Now, this started because Mr. Harold Stonecipher was also a part-time insurance agent, whereas Legal Shield is not an insurance, it's a membership. Again, and that's where I'm questioning the membership. At the moment, Legal Shield believes that it controls enough of the market to be quite happy. I'll let you know it's only 2% of the market, which means, while LegalZoom attempts to do something like this again, there's a huge hole in the market for a company that is, and a law firm that is willing to stand by some morals. So, of course, anybody that has to actually use the service will find the flaws to it. And of course, this is one of those things that at one time they would encourage you to use the membership as much as possible, where, again, a difference between an insurance and a membership is with an insurance, you don't want people to use it. And a membership, you want them to continue to use it because that'll help them to continue to pay for the membership. So there are differences between membership and insurance when it comes to Legal Shield. So on the topic of the happiest person is someone who has insurance and never has to use it. Because you have the security of believing it's there, never having to find out. But there are times even when you have insurance when you have to need an attorney. So justice in America, I learned, had become a high-priced commodity, and you get only what you paid for, which is really, again, kind of obvious. This was, again, 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago, but about 20 years ago still. Even today, we're a litigious nation, as it can be shown by Bonnie or Fanny. I mean, come on. I believe God has a plan for all of us, and he works his will in what appears to be strange and mysterious ways. I survived a near-fatal accident only to suffer through a legal nightmare, and it was because of that nightmare that I learned about and set out to correct a series of flaws in the greatest nation on earth, which we should work to preserve and not destroy. We had a legal system that promised equal justice but failed to deliver on that promise, and we still see it today. All the criminals getting let out, yet people that are supposedly part of a January 6th are having huge long terms imposed on them for no reason at all. How do you have an insurrection against yourself? How do you overthrow your own government? It's an interesting question for another time, I suppose, although I'm sure the question will come up more than once. So in 1972, he started the precursory company to what is today known as Prepaid legal services, actually, it's known as Legal Shield Prepaid Legal Services. Or no. PPLSI, Prepaid Legal Services Incorporate. There you go. We've changed the name again, apparently. So, or they have changed the name, depending upon how you want to look at it. So the company has gone through yet another change recently within the past 4 years. What precisely does prepaid legal do? Now, this is interesting because, again, this is where it was 20 years ago. It's not there today. If you were to talk to an associate to get a legal plan today, they would tell you something completely different. These plans provide benefits that include unlimited attorney consultations, will preparation, traffic violation defense, defense against automobile crime or criminal charges, letter writing, document preparation review, and general trial defense benefits. Okay, most of that is correct. The unlimited attorney consultations, it depends on the law firm, sadly. Again, I know this because I've sold the membership all 50 states of the United States. And yes, that includes Alaska. So the unlimited attorney consultations, well, again, I've come across so many people that, it passed. There seemed to have been a limit in the past. They worked on that. No, there is a limit. No, there isn't. I believe there is, at attorney's discretion. You'll hear me say that a lot because that is actually how Legal Shield or prepaid legal services, as it is known today, because Legal Shield was actually different. Prepaid legal services incorporate today uses the default at attorney's discretion anytime you have any complaint about the service not working right. So again, they keep notes on you on their end. So if they think, or you come across an attorney that doesn't have the same political opinions of you, they'll put in their internal notes that, you're some kind of a problem, which again, corporate can see, but you can't. Because you're just a customer. You're just a member. Will preparation. Hey, now actually that's a really good service. It still is today, was then, is now. You use it right away. I'll tell you, man, I had a massive coronary at the age of 48. You never know when you're going to need a will. It's a really good thing to have a will and not let the state mess with it. Some of these lawyers will charge you, oh my gosh, the exorbitant fees I've heard people having to pay attorneys, 1/10 of $100,000, just to give you an idea of what the charge was for them to have a will done. And it's like, but Legal Shield, $230 for a year membership, more or less. It's rough numbers. Don't quote me on any of the numbers. It's a really good deal when you want your will done. And you get it right away. So again, traffic violation defense. Oh yeah, I have a story on that one. Not today though, but I do have a story for it. Defense against automobile related criminal charges. I've never had to use it. I don't know of anybody who's ever had to use it, except Mr. Stonecipher himself. Letter writing. Oh man, that's easy. Because the attorneys don't have to get up to do that. They just write a letter that sounds big and powerful. I could do that as an accountant. I could write a business letter that shame on you for being a bad person. Don't make us do whatever we threaten to do because we're a law firm and have legal action quote behind it. That kind of thing. You just make it sound threatening and imposing half the time. It has its errors, it has its problems like all memberships do, but most of the time that one actually works really decently well. Because again, you try and get hold of some of these customer service things, and especially here in America, good luck if they speak English, let alone American. Document preparation and review, that's very, very limited service, to be honest, and it doesn't cover any legal documents whatsoever. So again, it kind of, unless of course, well, this might have changed it. When it was Legal Shield, they used to do first-time home buyers. They would review the entire contract at no cost, which to get an attorney to do that, again, beautiful benefit. Whether they do it now or not, I don't know. It's hard to say. review, and general trial defense benefits. I'm just trying to point out how they've changed. Here, they would talk, for the cost of our basic plan, just $14.95 a month, and for that, average middle-class families gain access to the top lawyers in America, the kind that Bill Gates, Bill Clinton, General Motors, General Electric, and O.J. Simpson can afford. Now, yeah, these are really good attorneys, et cetera, et cetera. Trust me, I'm sure I'll have time to blow smoke up your butt. I used to sell this. I'm really good at it. I have faith in the company. I have faith in the product and service. I believe it can work. The problem is, again, there's too many people at the corporate office who don't care. There's too many lawyers out there that believe justice should have an equitable outcome. That equal justice for all is just something written on the side of the building of the Supreme Court. Today, the company serves over 800,000 customers, whom we call members. More than 200,000 independent entrepreneurs sell our product. Now, again, if you want to start a company, 5 years ago, it would have been great to start with Legal Shield and become your own businessman. Nowadays, if the company can reorientate itself to the idea of equal justice for all as opposed to equitable justice, it might stand a chance. Otherwise, it's like expecting white men to start joining the military after we keep being told we're the bad guys. Nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. That was Legal Shield calling about the International Convention. I could say good and bad about the International Convention. Personally, I've gone to the International Convention as a Legal Shield associate. I've met a lot of successful people with Legal Shield. I would highly encourage you to go if you are serious about becoming or being successful with Legal Shield. You were there in person to talk to the successful people going, how did you do this? How do you do it? I know how it's said, but how did you do it? What little tweaks did you do at XYZ point to encourage your sales, to push you over the edge, to hit that tipping point? Again, I believe that Legal Shield is a service everybody actually needs, but that's when Legal Shield works, not when it's in the state it is right now. They're still repairing it, I hope. We'll see. I don't know. It was less than a year ago in which they announced that Ketanji Brown was the best thing to happen to the legal system. So, and that was corporate office. That wasn't the associates. That was the corporate office. This is, again, why I finally sat down and said, I'm going to do this. I need to. It's a good service. It's a good thing, but the company needs to find its way again, or, well, I hope somebody comes up with what Mr. Stonecipher saw as the plan, because Legal Shield, prepaid legal services in corporate, is not there anymore. They obviously have a different vision, and theirs seems to support an equitable justice system in which the law is interpreted for friends and enforced for the enemy. Who makes those laws? Well, at this point, it's also I actually have a couple episodes at which I point out it's legal plunder. A lot of what Congress does at this point is legal plunder. Your taxes you pay, legal plunder. And it's worse. It's legal plunder that's going to illegal immigrants. You can argue that all you want. Fact check me. Enjoy. But it's true. When our own vets are making less money than an illegal immigrant, we have a problem with our system. When we're complaining about how our vets make less money than the immigrants, but we don't have enough people in the military because white Christians are bad. When the military refuses to bring back or apologize for all the people it drummed out dishonorably because they wouldn't take a vax. And yes, the Secretary of State has refused to apologize, let alone ask them back. Yet they'll complain about how we're running low on numbers. Uh, at least those people will have the knowledge and be secure that if the draft ever comes back, they're not eligible. Me, I'm too old. Nothing in this world can take the place of persistency. This is very true. Ownership of a business, through life itself. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. So true. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Oh, so true. So true. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are components, and I'll add, of success. And you can find this repeatedly in many sources. At Prepaid Legal, we have persisted for nearly 3 decades, improving our products, perfecting our business model, and, one family at a time, putting access to the justice system in the hands of everyday Americans. Again, sadly, when you have something that qualifies, but the law firm continues to ask for a retainer, again, I had the retainer. I knew it qualified. I've been an associate for 10 years. I want to know why I had to pay the money if I wanted the legal help. And it wasn't until after the case in which they were like, oh yeah, it qualified. Well, I know it qualified. I want to know why you were trying to charge me money for something that qualified for at no cost. Because that's what they bill it as. That's what Prepaid Legal Shield Incorporate bills it as. PPLSI, at no cost. Legal defense, if it's a qualified. And I'm being told it was qualified, so why would I have had to come up with the $1,500? Which again, if I had paid the $1,500, it still would have come back, because the way the company works, again, beautiful business model. If it is something you paid the retainer for, but it's covered, you still get the money back. The problem is I didn't want to pay them $1,500 to the law firm, and who knows where that money's going to go, to have corporate office in 16 weeks pay me my $1,500 back. And not a moment too soon. The justice in America is broken and needs fixing. The legal profession in America is ridiculed and reviled, and it needs to be revitalized. Entrepreneurship in America has become too expensive. Oh man, ain't that the truth? And more with inflation, and now you've got these companies that are too big to fail, which again, your tax dollars are going to help support these companies, which are doing what for you? And it needs to be put back in the hands of the ordinary people once again, much like the election process. Instead of having some snobby state secretary going, I know what's good for everybody, and therefore we're going to ban this person from the ballot and ignore the Constitution. And then when the Supreme Court says, this is unconstitutional, peace out, people are going, they overstepped their bounds, they're compromised. Wait a second. For what? For saying you can't ban people from the presidential ballot just because you don't like them. 1930s, there was a gentleman who ran from jail. He was a socialist, by the way. Enough said. Socialist in 1930s got 3% of the vote here in America. Yeah, and there's a reason they're worried about Trump. That's why they want to take him off the ballot as opposed to just put him in jail, which is what they're trying to do. Figure out how to put him in jail. So this chapter is chock full of introduction about the company, about Mr. Stonecipher, how they're based in Oklahoma. Very nice corporate image. A lot of it is arguable. Can be arguable. As I said, they seem to be in a position to think they make enough money at only 2% of the market. So there is an opening for the adventurous law firm that wants to make some money. Because I tell you, man, there's a lot of money to be made in this. You know, answer the phones, show up to court once in a while. As long as you got enough attorneys, you can make quite a decent money. Some of these law firms, they make $1 million a year. Working for Legal Shield doing what? answering the phone, writing a few letters. Oh, I'm sure they'd tell you they do more than that. And as we go on, there'll be stories that cover more of that. Since we're coming to the end of this episode, I want to say thank you very much for taking the time out of your very busy schedules. If you don't have the book, I highly encourage you to get the book, Prepaid Legal Story by Harland Stonecipher. You can pick it up on Zoom. We're going to go ahead and we're going to continue to cover it. I'm going to make an episode a chapter. I am hoping my world goes right and I will be able to have either made the decision to go live next Tuesday or at least have an episode posted, because as long as I procrastinate and find myself undecisive, I will continue to procrastinate. It is one of my flaws, but at least I recognize it. Know thyself. So with that, I want to say thank you very much for taking the time out of your very busy schedules to join me. I do hope that you found something of interest in this. If you have any questions, please leave a comment down below. And again, thank you very much for your time. God bless you. God bless America, for we seem to have lost our way. And as Christian nationalists, I think it's time we start speaking up. Thank you, and God bless.